Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. Do we need to see any alternates? Thad?
Tad for
Or-
Dan.
Fine. Okay. I am going to ask the enforcement officer to give us a quick update on why we're here, since she knows far more about it than I do.
So, we have two properties that we, there's been, tree clearing on both properties. The first one that we're gonna talk about on the, hearing is 471 Old Poverty Road, where there was tree clearing done, on the property that, Land Trust, Southbury Land Trust has done surveys, and they determined it was on their property, where the owner thought it was on their own property. So there was 2 site visits done for that. The first one was just to get a general idea of the tree clearing, and then the second one, there was a soil scientist involved that delineated a small area that appeared to be wetlands, which is why we're involved at this point.
Okay?
So that's the gist of that one. 40 Plaster House.
Let's stick with that one for the moment.
Okay.
How large is the wetland area that's affected?
If you look
Roughly.
on the sheet that was given to you with the site walk report, on the very back, in the red circle, if you flip all the way to the back.
Okay? In the
Yeah,
red circle?
The red circle is the limit of the wetland survey.
Okay. And their cutting was actually in the wetland area?
It appears that there was a large tree cut in that area
Was
with an X.
Was the tree damaged? I mean, was it a sick tree? Was it falling apart, or was it just,
I don't know that information.
okay?
Were the wetlands actually marked out there?
I'm not sure.
Did they flag the wetlands?
So Cynthia works with the Northwest Conservation District. They're one of the conservation districts that were eligible to use in situations like this. She's not there to survey and locate wetlands. Their real goal is, and purpose is to identify wetland soils and approximate locations of wetlands, which she had done in order to determine whether or not a violation had occurred. If further wetland delineation needs to be done at this time, then this commission would need to determine how and how much wetlands monitoring or delineation needs to be done. There was a relatively small location. It's a sloped locale that this tree clearing was conducted on. I'd wager no more than 100 square feet of wetlands. This work was not performed within the wetlands. So the limits of the wetland area that we had seen pretty much cut off right at the vegetative buffer, indicating that the tree clearing that was done was within the upland area and not the actual wetlands that were surveyed.
Okay, so, just to restate, as I understand it, the tree wasn't in the wetland. It was in the upland area. Was there any actual incursion into the wetland area to cut the tree down, remove debris, anything like that?
No visible incursion into the delineated wetland. There's a drainage water course that cuts through the property. That trees were cleared, vegetation was removed throughout that area. However, the area of bona fide wetlands was not disturbed. The upland was.
So our real issue, on a technical level, is that there should have been a permit secured in order to cut in that area, and that didn't occur.
Correct, and also them clearing not on their property and on land trust property.
That is another issue.
Oh, yeah, but, yeah.
And just for clarity, what's the land trust think about that?
they're here if they want to speak.
Yes, that would be good. Gentlemen, can you give us your name and
Oh,
address,
sure.
please?
I'm Joe Ruggiero. I'm the president of the Southbury Land Trust, 245 Skyview Drive. I'm also joined by Pat Monahan, who's our stewardship director. We discovered this whole incursion that affected both us and potentially the wetland vicinity on June 8th. And quickly, I think you got it on 8 o'clock in the morning. We were out there by 11 and remarked the boundary because damage was done well into land trust property. So we remarked it just to preserve evidence and things of that nature. When we first saw it, it didn't occur to us that it was wet. It looked like drainage. But when I spoke, or I emailed various folks just to let them know what happened, that's when they decided to do a soil test. What we are doing now is we are engaging a fellow named Dr. Stephen Danzer, who's a wetland consultant. So I'm working to get him to come in and review the entire site. He did ask me if the wetlands were flagged or not, and I told him that they were not, that I was aware that Cynthia from the Northwest, whatever it is.
Conservation District.
Thank you. Had done some analysis to determine the wetland area, but he said he could flag it. He knows that costs money, so I get that. So we're going to be looking at this from the entire damage perspective.
Right.
And so I'm working out the details of a contract with him. And then we will, just do an analysis. If you guys want to dovetail onto that in terms of the wet area, perhaps we can. I don't know how we want to
That
work it.
seems to make sense to me.
I think so. So we'll be doing this either way.
Okay.
So that's really it in a nutshell. Do you guys have any questions that I can answer?
Are you of the opinion that the wetland area extends onto the land trust property?
I think so. It's right on the line if it is. It's very close.
So if you're having it marked, are you having private property and the land trust area marked?
I would have to get permission from the private landowner, obviously, if that's the case, but I'm mainly focused on our property.
Okay.
But if I haven't seen the latest photos that Jordan took, but we have some as well. As you face up the hill, it was to the right, on the extreme right. It was very close to where the pin was. And I thought there was a tree in there, but we'll double check that,
Were there property line markings in place
So
prior to this
typically,
activity?
we do that. We're trying to go back through our records. We actually had engaged the prior landowner in 2007 because they cut a tree,
Okay.
same spot, and maybe one, and we said, don't do that, and kind of put that to bed, but this is far worse.
Okay.
So we are, we're looking back at our records, but typically we mark every 100 or 150 feet along the perimeter with a yellow sign that
Okay.
indicates land trust property.
I can verify that.
Please.
I can verify that. Pat Monahan with the Land Trust, I can verify that either side of that property, where the trees are still there are markers there that have been there.
But there's also barbed wire on the ground. There's
Yeah.
some other indicators of,
And a pin, right?
and a
at the
pin,
corner.
there's a pin in the corner near the wet area. There's a few, if you're looking for it, you'd find it. So I don't know. We'll find out if there were signs on the trees or not.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, do you know when you're going to get your report back from your?
We're just engaging him now.
Okay,
I just
so
spoke with
it's
him.
going to be a couple weeks?
I would think so, yeah.
And is he going to come up with a recommended remediation proposal?
So that's part of the proposal. We would ask for a plan to remediate and/or estimate where we are and see what the best decision is for the site.
I obviously would like to find out what that is.
Oh, of course. I would share the report with you
Oh,
folks.
sure.
Yeah.
If you just contact us when you get it,
Oh, yeah,
so that we can set up another
Yeah.
meeting, probably at a regular meeting.
sure. Oh, yeah.
That's all right with you?
Yeah, no, I'm all for taking our time on that. We'll get there. But I'm hoping he'll come out later this week or maybe next week, depending on his time. He's a busy guy, so. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Any
Nice to
other-
have you here. Thank you, too.
Okay.
Are the Abbotts here?
One of them is, hello,
Hi.
Michael Abbott.
Could you come up and tell us what happened, please?
I was having trees removed.
Give us your full name and address, please?
Michael Abbott, 471 Old Poverty Road, Southbury.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott.
Yeah, no problem. I was having trees removed at a service. The trees were dead. I have pictures of the trees. It didn't seem to be as many trees as it was because it all turned into like one big thing. It's covered with invasive vines. I have pictures of it. It's all dead. I thought they were mine. I thought my property goes down to where the hill ends. I thought that was the end of my property. There was no markers that I could see or indications that I could see. I don't know what this pin looks like. I'm not sure. I still haven't seen the pin. So I was talking to the person over the phone. There's a language barrier. He went a little further than I thought he was gonna do. When I got home, I told him to calm down and stop. And that's basically what happened in a nutshell. So I thought the trees were mine. I don't know why we're doing a study on the wetlands if it appears to be that the 10 by 10 square feet weren't damaged. I don't know why we'd do a study on that. It seems like a waste. But I apologize for going too far, but I don't think the boundaries were marked properly, because if the owner before me did the same exact thing, obviously there's some sort of disconnect there. I don't think it's clearly marked.
I would suggest you get somebody to mark your property lines.
Okay,
That's because you're abutting, you have abutting neighbors, the land trust is there, you need to get that done.
yeah. So at the site, there's like a natural hill, and I thought my property was all the hill, and when it like bounces back up, I thought that was their property. Before the trees were removed, it looked like a lot smaller area than when the trees were removed. It just looks a lot more vast when the trees are removed. Like, I didn't even know that hill went down that far, to be perfectly honest, before it was removed.
There is also, you are required to get a permit if you're cutting within 50 feet of a wetland area.
I didn't know it was a wetland area.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
We hear that a lot.
Yeah,
But it's best in the future, call the office, find out if there's any potential issue. That avoids your having to do this.
what would make it a wetland area, though, just for my knowledge?
In Connecticut, it's delineated by wetland soils. You have to actually take soil samples and analyze them and determine whether it is or not. Usually, you can look at it and say, that looks wet. And you'll see the sedges, and you'll see flora, plants that are growing up that are characteristic of wet areas, skunk cabbage, stuff like that. It is not always the case.
Okay, yeah, it's fairly dry where it is,
It can do that.
yeah. So,
Anyway, now there's a problem.
mhm,
They're gonna have to do an analysis. They're gonna come up with a recommendation. We don't know what we're gonna do yet. We'll decide in the next few minutes.
okay,
Be aware in the future, please. You're gonna go in there, start cutting down trees, find out if you can. And make
okay.
sure you
Yeah,
know
I didn't know I
the
had to worry about wetlands, and I thought my property line was further.
As a general rule, just assume you can't just go out in the woods and cut things down.
Okay,
Best you can.
okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Comments, discussion? Mike?
No, I'm kind of mulling it over. The soil scientists will have to, I guess, determine whether it's wetlands or not.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna find that out.
It seems like a small area, but then there's a whole separate issue of going on somebody else's, so that,
Exactly.
but that's not really under our purview.
That isn't per se, but assuming it is a wetland, then operating within the upland area without the permit. I mean, in this case, assuming that they'd come in and said, look, we want to take this tree down, it probably wouldn't have been a big deal,
Right.
but that didn't happen, so that makes.
No,
that's what,
I understand
I know
all
you do.
that.
It
Yeah,
just-
yeah.
Would you like to see the pictures of the dead trees, what kind of condition they were in?
If you have that, it
Yes.
would be a good idea to provide
I
that.
can text it to you, or I can show you on my phone right now.
No, I don't think we need to see them right now. If you could send them to the office, then we can print them out.
On the email I have on the letter?
Yeah, that
So
works.
your intention was just to cut down trees because they were just dead and ugly looking?
They were completely dead. They were covered in vines, they were a danger to the, sorry. The trees are completely dead, they're covered by invasive vines. If you look at the picture, it's just blackness. Even the trees that are left are still covered in vines, and I have pictures of that. I didn't go further because I didn't have the money to continue to take down all the trees that I thought were dead and in danger. I took the vines off some, but there's still vines strangling all these trees. You could come to the site and look to the, if you're on my property, you look to the right, they're completely strangled. It's a danger. They could have fell on my property. There was basically like a severe thunderstorm that came through yesterday. That could have knocked any of them down. So that's why I didn't want them. They were,
Again, going forward, check with us, check with your neighbor. They might be perfectly happy to have you take either the vines down to the dead trees. I don't know. You have to talk to them. And we'll see, and that's it.
okay, I'll send the photos. Thank you.
I would propose that we continue keeping things, doing nothing, keep the cease and desist in place pending receiving information from the land trust, and then work on that and see what they have to say. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I went onto the town GIS site, and it doesn't on there show any kind of wetlands on this site, and if it was overgrown to the extent that the owner offers, I can see how that would be missed until the
cut it.
debris was, right, until it was cut. But I think that we need to identify what's there so that we have it in the record and we can proceed knowing. I would speculate that there's more than 100 square feet of wetlands
We never
involved.
have only 100 square.
We have some sort of an intermittent either inlet or outlet to this wet area going,
Yeah.
it's either coming down the hill or going up, I'm not sure which, not having been there, but I think we should take this opportunity to properly identify it
It's
so
pretty
that, right, and you have some sort of a,
Yeah, there's a run.
so I think it needs to be flagged by a soil scientist so that it can be added to the town GIS site at some point, and so that we have the accurate information to use to,
And get some,
Determine.
and get some markers up,
yes.
assuming it's a significant wetland.
You know, if it's not large, it should not be an expensive proposition, but I think we need to do that before we start any other sort of deliberations or whatever over what.
Are you suggesting we hire somebody to go out and mark it now, or will you want to wait for the land trust report?
I was trying to determine
we
whether they're only really allowed to do what's on their property, and they're not allowed to do what's on the applicant's property unless he agrees to it.
Let's see that. Mr. Abbott, do you mind if the expert from the land trust comes over on your property to take a look and see if he can?
No, I've been trying to cooperate the whole time. I've called everyone who's reached out to me. I've returned emails. I've been showing up here on short notice. Anything I could do to help, I'm glad to help. Is there a possibility I could get a copy of this, just so I have more information for myself?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, yeah, thank you.
You're entitled to everything.
No, yeah, it just helps everybody. All right, so you can send them out if you want to contact me first, so I know someone's going to be on my property at that time. That will be,
Mr. Ruggiero?
we've been in touch. We have each
Yeah.
other's numbers.
So, as I said, it's right near the line, we will, we'll definitely, if he can look around in the vicinity, I'll let Dr. Danzer know, and then we can check it out, and it'll be part of the report. But he did offer to flag the wet
It
vicinity.
really needs to be
That would really be
flagged so
nice.
that we can,
Yeah, So-
Really look at it.
yeah, let him do that, because he knew Cynthia, so, he knew about her. Anyway, we'll get that, as they say, as soon as it's all straightened out with him.
If he's gonna be able to generate that in the next couple of weeks, we
Yep.
will schedule this for our
That's-
next meeting, which is the second Tuesday in July.
Second
If you
Tuesday.
can't do that, we'll push it off until
Okay,
August.
I can't commit
Got it.
for him yet, so I'll have to let you know.
Oh, yeah, I think I can make it. I gotta look at my calendar, but yeah, that
Good.
sounds fine.
On that point, I guess I would move that we continue the cease and desist pending information from the land trust and an opportunity to look at that and discuss it at our next meeting or the one after that.
second the motion.
Everybody seconded. All in
Everyone
favor?
seconded that. Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Abbott. Appreciate you coming in. Gentlemen, thank you also.
Thank
cease and desist, Plaster House Road.
Yes, so, this property, we received a complaint of tree clearing within the 50-foot regulated area. There's a site visit conducted on June 10th where it was observed trees were cleared, and in the email I sent in the packet, you can see photos that were taken during the site visit, and I drew in where the creek was located. And it appears the work was done within that 50-foot upland review area from that water course. That's pretty much all I know.
Okay, how much area was affected approximately, do we know?
I'm not 100% sure. Looking at the photos, I can't really tell. I wasn't there.
Oh, you haven't been there?
No.
So the work, just to give you guys some reference, the work observed was essentially the entire area on the adjoining property owner's property has been kind of clear cut, you know. The area where this property extends is kind of a large rectangle, if you have the reference GIS map. So that rectangle, the owner's clearing that property. The adjoining property owner had issued a complaint regarding that tree work, so a site visit was performed to assess if any violations were in occurrence, and as a result, the drainage channel that runs along the border of both properties was observed, and the tree cutting was in close proximity to that drainage channel, and that's essentially the gist of the work and the reason why this was brought to your attention today.
Okay.
Did stumping occur on that portion of the property? They removed stumps?
It appeared that the earthwork was extensive along with the tree work, but without having eyes on the specific property or without doing a site work on the actual subject property, I wouldn't be able to answer that question
Do
effectively,
we
Carl.
have an idea what the purpose of the clearing was? I see, excuse me. Last photograph is a lot of medium-sized boulders piled up.
The entire site has been pretty extensively worked on from an earthwork perspective, but this was the only locality that was in close proximity to any type of drainage watercourse in the wetland. The rest of the site did not appear to be regulated from a wetlands perspective. However, this was the small area that was in close proximity, so.
Do you think there were any actual impacts to the wetland resource?
Given the amount of soil erosion going on right now and feeding down that channel, it's quite likely as a result. So whether or not this commission felt so inclined to see the property, increase erosion controls, determine selective planting, more or less the case in front of you today.
Is there a representative of the owner here? Did you guys come up? Could you give us your name and address, please?
Mike Milady, 40 Plaster House.
Thank you. What were you guys thinking of, what were you doing?
There's a well house right next to the stream that was existing before I bought the property.
Okay.
And then there was a pathway there, so while it does look clear-cut, we didn't cut down nearly as many trees as it appears because there was a pretty wide pathway going to that area. I did cut down some trees, but it wasn't, there was a wide area in the middle that was open. There was dead trees crisscrossing it, so I moved those out of the way. I made a path to get there. I moved a lot of stones. There was a lot of dead trees down that we moved and just cleared, I was just trying to clean up.
So the purpose was to get to the well house?
Well, there's a well house there that's falling down. I was gonna try to rebuild it at some point. There's a structure there. It's not on the existing survey, but there is a, I don't know, maybe 8x8 structure.
I'm not clear. Are you trying to do something with the well house or get rid of it or what? Why were you clearing it?
This has got to be the well house.
Yeah.
There's actually a pump in
That's
I don't think so. I think it was a stream, I think it was a gravity-fed well at some point. It does go to the house. So, I mean, we have a regular well too at the house, but that also flows into the house as well. I didn't realize it was wetlands there. I was just clearing up. I was just kind of, clean up the area.
It's the well house, I think.
So,
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be difficult, but I still don't understand why you're cutting and clearing it.
I was hoping to use it at some point, but I mean, I really, like I said, there was a pathway there that was crisscrossed with trees that had fallen. I had removed them and some brush, and there was a couple of trees that I did knock down. Most of them were dead already, on both sides of the pathway that was there. The ones on the left side of the pathway were out of the 50-foot buffer zone, now that they were telling me that there was a 50-foot buffer zone. So,
What is the opening? It looks like there's an opening, is that a depressed area that holds water? So it looks like there's an opening here, kind of in front of the well house, like.
This pile of stones is to the back portion of my property. Before that, that was a pathway. On this side of it, there was brush and some boulders, but this here was kind of a natural path. This is the well house that I was talking about.
Okay.
That is,
Do these
across.
two connect, like,
yeah, so this
Like
was,
this.
actually, it would kind of be like this.
okay,
And this pile of rocks is on the other side of the pathway to this.
okay.
The discussion is, Ms. Lesh is being shown where the pathway was and the location of the well house. We can't, there's no record if you're talking to her.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Let's try to speak onto the record. Okay. No permits, I assume?
not for that, I have building permits for work that we're doing on the house.
Okay. I assume there were no wetland markers?
There was never any wetlands markers on the property. I had a survey done as well, and there was no wetlands markers. So I really didn't have a way of knowing.
So at this point, what would you like to do with the property?
Well, I was thinking of calling the engineer when we had time to maybe extend my driveway, that's the existing driveway now, back there, and to use that portion of the property for something. Now that I know that there's wetlands there, if I can move it over and stay out of the buffer zone, then I would have him try to do that. That driveway that I was envisioning would encroach within that buffer zone, so I don't know what the steps would be
Well,
for
in
that.
order to determine that, you'd need to get us a plan.
Yeah.
And a request for a permit, and then we'd have a regular hearing, and we could deal with that.
Right, I don't have any plans for that now, so I didn't call the engineer. I was just trying to clean up, being that I had, machinery there. So.
What's actually been done that we need to be concerned about? It doesn't sound like there's a
I
lot of
didn't change-
extensive damage here.
I didn't change the grade. Most of the stuff I took down on the right side within the buffer zone was dead already. And I didn't want to take down a lot of live trees on her side because I knew she would get mad. So I kind of left that area alone because I didn't want to deal with this. So most of the work done, the trees that were taken down were on the left side of the pathway.
Jada, do you think we should do a site visit, take a look at this? What's your recommendation?
Yeah, I think getting eyes on the property would be beneficial to see how you guys want to move forward.
Okay, it sounds kind of confusing to me anyway. You have any thoughts? Marcinko?
I would concur with Jada that a site visit would give this commission the best understanding of whether or not significant damage was done to the wetland, or if this is just a matter of placing erosion controls and closing the hearing. While you are here, Mike, right? Essentially, it sounds like there's a lot of questions that you have and plans that you have with the property. A lot of them do pertain to the municipality as well as zoning. That's not what we're here today for. However, I would recommend that you contact my office ideally this week so that you and I can have a discussion about what your future plans are and how they do relate to zoning and whether or not they'd be something that could even be feasible in the future, whether or not an engineer could draw up the plans or not.
Thank you, I understand. We've been doing work on this property for a while now, and so we just pulled permits to do an addition. I've had the engineer there a few times. We do things in steps, so I don't have like this master plan that I want to push through at one time. You know, as we kind of, you know, think about things we want to do, we do it, but I do try to get the necessary permits to do the work.
And that's fair. However, it does sound like you already started the earthwork for a potential future project of generating a driveway to this back location for an intended purpose. You and I should have had that conversation early on, saying, hey, this is something we're looking to do. I got to clear trees to do this. The purpose you're putting the driveway back there for may not be permissible in Southbury. And without understanding that, I wouldn't be able to guide you through the necessary avenues. So that's why I'd just like to have that conversation, see what you are planning for the overall site, see if it's doable, and seeing how much inland wetlands needs to be involved as it relates to that water course that borders both your property and your neighbor's property. Okay, perfect.
Okay, sounds like we have, again, need to get more information. I would propose we schedule a site visit to take a look at it so we can get an actual feeling for what's been done and may or may not be proposed. You need to speak with Jordan soon to try to figure some of that as well. In the meantime, let's continue this until our next regular meeting, at which point we should have a little more information and we'll have, some of us at least will have seen the actual property. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. I would move then that we do that. Can we get a second?
Sure,
Carl
I'll second it.
seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir. We'll be in touch. in
Just
a
so
moment.
everyone in the audience is aware, the Wetlands meets every month on the second Tuesday. So July, August, second Tuesday. So you can either mark your calendars or prepare yourself in that regard. But if you have any questions and want to talk to the land use department, feel free to give me a call.
Is there a possibility I could have the floor again?
I think we finished with that matter. Yes. What can I do for you?
I think you just closed the hearing, so.
Oh, we didn't close it yet. We
You didn't? Okay.
disposed of that matter.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Just, on this paperwork I received, the draw-up on it is all wrong. So there's a draw-up right here stating on the legend that the willow tree is right here on my property in this corner. That's incorrect. This is the willow tree. This is a giant bush that's still there. So they said I cleared all the way up to here where the wetlands is. That's not accurate. There's a huge bush here, that's this. This is the willow tree. It's on their property, not on mine. It's marked on this paper as my property.
Okay.
So basically, you could cut all this off and none of this happened.
Okay. You're free to submit any comments you want.
Okay.
Or a survey substantiated.
Correct the record. That's fine.
Yeah, well, they even marked lines where you can see it's on their property, the willow tree, but on this paper, it's on my property, which
Okay,
doesn't
that's
make
fine.
sense.
Well, it hasn't been surveyed and
Okay. All right, thank you.
straightened all out. Thank you. And on that note, anybody else have anything to bring up, discuss, comment on? Bad? No? And I think we could entertain a motion to adjourn.
So be it.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And again, I apologize for being late. I was trimming trees. Actually, it's not a wetland, but it is a contained, controlled area. Fortunately, it used to be a field, so I don't actually have to get permits. One of the advantages of buying old farm property.